I still remember the color of the sky the day everything broke. It was the softest shade of evening blue, the kind that makes you believe the world is gentle, the kind that whispers, nothing bad will happen today. I believed it. I believed in many things back then. I believed in love that stayed, in promises that meant forever, in best friends who never lied. And I believed in him. My name doesn't matter as much as the girl I used to be. She was soft in a hopeful way. She smiled at strangers. She trusted easily. She loved like the world had never hurt her. That girl met him on an ordinary afternoon that later felt like destiny. We were standing in line at a small coffee place near college. I dropped my coins. They scattered everywhere. And before embarrassment could rise to my cheeks, a quiet voice beside me said, "Wait, I've got them." I looked up, and something inside my chest paused. Not fireworks, not dramatic music, just calm, warm, safe. The kind of feeling that doesn't shout love, it simply feels like home. He smiled like he already knew me, like we had met in another life and just forgot. That was the beginning. We didn't fall in love in a single moment. It happened in small, almost invisible ways. Late-night calls where neither of us wanted to hang up, sharing food from the same plate, walking slowly just to make time last longer. The way he remembered tiny details, my favorite song, how I hated loud places, the exact way I liked my tea. Love didn't arrive loudly. It settled softly like sunlight across a floor. And one day I realized I couldn't imagine a future where he wasn't there. So I gave him everything. Not just my time, not just my heart. I gave him my trust. She had been in my life long before him. My best friend, the girl who knew my secrets before I even finished speaking, who slept beside me during heartbreaks, who held my hand through exams, fears, and every tiny dream. When I told her about him, her eyes lit up. "I want to meet him," she said. I was excited, because when you love two people deeply, you want them to love each other too. You want your worlds to blend into something beautiful. And at first, they did. We laughed together, studied together, took pictures where our heads leaned close like a small, perfect universe. If someone had shown me a photo from that time and said, "Something here will destroy you," I would have laughed, because everything looked too pure to break. Pain rarely begins loudly. It starts as something small, so small you almost ignore it. A message he didn't reply to, a moment they shared that felt slightly too private, a silence when I entered the room. Nothing clear, nothing provable, just a strange whisper inside my chest saying, "Something is wrong." But I pushed it away, because love teaches you to trust, and fear teaches you to doubt, and I wanted to be the kind of girl who trusted. So I smiled. I laughed. I told myself I was imagining things. I didn't know that sometimes your heart sees the truth long before your mind is ready. There are moments in life that divide time into two halves, before, after. That day was one of them. I wasn't supposed to find out like that. No one ever is. There was no dramatic music, no storm, no warning sign from the universe, just a phone screen, a message left open, words not meant for me, words that felt like knives. I read them once, then again, because my brain refused to understand what my eyes were seeing. My hands started shaking. My chest tightened like the air had disappeared from the world. And in that quiet, ordinary room, my entire life shattered without making a sound. He didn't just betray me. He chose her, my best friend, my safe place, the person I trusted with every secret of my heart. two people I loved more than anyone else, standing together on the other side of a lie. I remember thinking one simple, broken thought: where do I go now if home itself is gone? People think heartbreak is loud crying, dramatic scenes, endless tears, but the deepest pain is silent. I didn't scream, I didn't throw anything, I didn't even confront them right away. I just sat there, completely still, because when betrayal is too big, your soul doesn't know how to react. It simply freezes. Tears came later, alone, in the dark, where no one could see how completely I had broken. I kept asking the same question again and again: was I not enough? That question is poison. It sinks slowly. It convinces you the betrayal was your fault, and for a while, I believed it. When I finally stood in front of them, my heart wasn't racing anymore. It was calm, not peaceful calm, the kind of calm that comes after something inside you dies. They looked guilty, ashamed, afraid, but what hurt the most wasn't their expressions. It was realizing they had already shared moments that used to belong to me, laughs that sounded like mine, memories built behind my back, a story where I had been quietly erased. I expected anger to explode from me, but instead, my voice came out soft. Why? Just one word, because sometimes a single word carries the weight of an entire broken universe. Their answers didn't matter. Excuses never heal betrayal. And in that moment, I understood something painful and clear. Love cannot survive where respect has died. So I walked away, even though every step felt like tearing my own heart apart. Healing didn't come quickly. It came in pieces, slow, messy, unfair. Some mornings I felt strong. Other mornings I couldn't get out of bed. Songs reminded me of him. Places reminded her of her. Even laughter felt dangerous, like happiness might betray me again. But somewhere inside the sadness, a tiny spark remained, a quiet voice whispering, "You will survive this." I didn't believe it first, but I held on to that whisper because it was the only light I had. And sometimes, one small light is enough to guide you through the darkest night. This is not the end of my story, because what happened next was something none of us expected. Not me, not him, not her. And the moment they realized what they truly had lost, everything changed. The first morning after I truly let them go felt unreal. Not dramatic, not cinematic, just quiet. Too quiet. My phone didn't light up with his good morning message. There was no random meme from her. No shared plans. No familiar voices filling the empty spaces of my day. I learned something painful in those weeks. You don't just lose people. You lose routines, memories, future plans, and the version of yourself that existed with them. Every corner of my life felt unfamiliar, like I had been dropped into someone else's story without instructions on how to live it. I walked through college corridors like a ghost. I smiled when people spoke to me. I said, "I'm fine," so many times that the words lost all meaning. But inside, I was still breaking in slow motion. Heartbreak is not only pain, it is questions that echo endlessly. Did he ever really love me? Was she secretly jealous all along? How long had he been lying? Why didn't I see it sooner? But the loudest question was always the same. What was wrong with me? That question followed me everywhere. In the mirror, in the silence before sleep, in the spaces where confidence used to live. I began shrinking without noticing, talking less, laughing less, dreaming less. Because betrayal has a cruel way of making you doubt your own worth. And when you start doubting yourself, the world feels colder than it really is. There was one night I will never forget. Rain tapped softly against my window, the kind of gentle rain that usually feels comforting. But that night, it sounded like loneliness. I sat on the floor beside my bed, hugging my knees, staring at nothing. And for the first time, I allowed myself to feel everything at once. The anger, the sadness, the humiliation, the emptiness. Tears came harder than ever before. Not quiet tears, but deep, shaking sobs pulled from somewhere ancient inside my chest. I cried for the girl who trusted too easily, for the memories that were now poisoned, for the future that disappeared without warning. And in the middle of that storm of tears, a realization appeared, soft but clear. I was still here. Broken, yes. Hurting, yes. But breathing. And something about that tiny fact felt important. Healing doesn't begin with big, dramatic moments. It begins quietly. One morning, I opened my curtains. Just that. Sunlight entered my room like it had been waiting patiently for me to notice it again. Dust floated in golden lines through the air, birds arguing somewhere outside. Life continued. For weeks, the world had felt paused in my pain, but the truth was simple and almost shocking. The world never stopped turning, and maybe, just maybe, I didn't have to either. So that day, I did one small thing differently. I went for a walk, alone. No music, no phone, just me and the quiet sound of my own footsteps. It felt strange, lonely, but also peaceful in a fragile way, like the first breath after being underwater too long. I didn't wake up suddenly strong. Strength came slowly, in pieces so small they were easy to miss. Cooking for myself, studying again, laughing at a joke without guilt, sleeping through the night for the first time in months. Each tiny moment was like placing one brick in the foundation of a new life. A life without him, without her, without lies. At first, that idea terrified me, but over time, it started to feel like freedom, because I realized something powerful. They didn't just betray me, they also removed themselves from my future. And maybe that future was meant to be brighter than the past I lost. Months passed, not perfectly, not magically, but enough for the pain to soften around the edges. One afternoon, I was leaving the library when I heard a voice behind me. My name. I knew that voice instantly. My heart recognized it before my mind could prepare. I turned slowly, and there they were, standing together, but not the way I remembered. Something had changed. The easy happiness between them was gone. Their smiles looked forced. Their eyes carried a heaviness I had never seen before. For a moment, none of us spoke. Time felt suspended, like the universe was holding its breath. I expected my chest to ache the way it used to, but instead, I felt calm. Not cold, not angry, just calm. And that was the moment I realized I was healing. He spoke first, my name again, softer this time, almost afraid. There was an apology in his eyes before any words came out, the kind of apology that arrives too late. She looked at me differently too, not confident, not proud, just small. I could feel their regret without them saying it, and strangely, that realization didn't make me happy, because once you truly love someone, their pain never becomes your victory. It simply becomes another quiet sadness. He tried to explain, to justify, to rewind time with words that sounded fragile and desperate. But I had learned something important during those months of silence. Closure doesn't come from their explanations, it comes from your own acceptance. So I listened politely, calmly, like someone hearing a story that no longer belonged to her. And when he finished, I smiled gently, not because I forgave everything, not because it didn't hurt once, but because I was finally free of needing anything from them. Regret is a strange thing. It doesn't shout, it settles slowly, growing heavier with time. They had chosen a moment of excitement and lost something steady and real. They had followed curiosity and discovered emptiness. And now, standing in front of me, they were seeing clearly what they once took for granted. Not just me, but the love, the loyalty, the quiet future we could have built. I saw the realization in their eyes. Some mistakes cannot be undone. Some doors close softly and never open again. As I walked away from them that day, something inside me felt different, lighter, stronger, peaceful in a way I hadn't known before, and a truth formed gently in my heart. Being left does not mean being worthless. Being betrayed does not mean being unlovable. Being broken does not mean staying broken. Sometimes, the worst endings create space for the most beautiful beginnings. I didn't know yet what my new beginning would look like, but for the first time since everything shattered, I was excited to find out. Because the real turning point of my story, the moment that changed everything again, hadn't happened yet. And when it finally arrived, it would teach me something even deeper about love, destiny, and the quiet strength of a girl who refused to disappear. After that day in the library, I expected old memories to return. I thought I would go home and cry again. I thought my heart would reopen like a wound touched too soon. But something surprising happened. Nothing. No storm, no tears, no sleepless night replaying the past. Just quiet. For the first time in months, the silence inside me didn't feel empty. It felt peaceful, like a room that had finally been cleaned after a long, messy winter. I realized healing isn't loud. It doesn't arrive with fireworks or dramatic music. Sometimes healing is simply the absence of pain where pain used to live. And that quiet peace felt like the beginning of something new. When you lose people who were central to your life, you face a strange question. Who am I now? For a long time, I had been his girlfriend, her best friend, part of a small, shared world. Without those roles, I felt undefined, like a story missing its title. So I started discovering myself again, slowly, carefully, the way you explore a new city with no map. I tried things I had postponed, read books I never had time for, sat alone in cafes without feeling embarrassed, listened to my own thoughts instead of everyone else's expectations. At first, it felt lonely. Then, it started to feel powerful. Because I wasn't rebuilding the old girl, I was becoming someone stronger, someone wiser, someone who understood her own worth. And that girl was someone I was beginning to admire. Heartbreak shows you something important. Not everyone leaves. During my lowest months, a few quiet souls stayed beside me. Friends who didn't ask too many questions, family who pretended not to notice my tears but held me closer. people who offered presents instead of advice. They never tried to fix me, they simply reminded me I wasn't alone in the world. And slowly, their kindness filled spaces betrayal had emptied. I learned that love doesn't only exist in romance, it lives in small gestures, a warm meal, a gentle message, someone waiting to walk you home. Those simple loves are often the ones that save us. One evening, while cleaning my desk, I found an old notebook. Inside were dreams I had written long before heartbreak, places I wanted to visit, things I wanted to learn, the life I imagined building. Reading those pages felt like meeting a younger version of myself, a girl full of hope, unafraid of the future, certain that beautiful things were waiting for her. For a moment, sadness touched me again, because somewhere along the way, I had stopped dreaming. I had made one person my entire future, and when he disappeared, my future disappeared with him. But holding that notebook, I understood something gentle and powerful. Dreams that belong to you cannot be taken by someone who leaves. So that night, I wrote new dreams beside the old ones, and for the first time in a long while, the future didn't feel scary. It felt open. Forgiveness is often misunderstood. People think it means saying, "It's okay, what you did didn't hurt." But real forgiveness is quieter than that. It simply means, I refuse to carry this pain anymore. One morning, months after everything ended, I woke up with an unexpected feeling in my chest. Not anger, not sadness, just softness. I thought of them, and instead of pain, I felt distance, like remembering a storm after you've already reached shelter. In that moment, without ceremony, without words spoken aloud, I forgave them, not for their sake, for mine. And something invisible inside me finally loosened its grip. Part 23, When Life Surprised Me Again. Healing has a quiet magic. Just when you stop looking for happiness, life places a small surprise in your path. It wasn't dramatic, not love at first sight, not destiny crashing through the door. Just a simple moment, a conversation that lasted longer than expected, a laugh that felt easy, eyes that looked at me without history, without lies, without comparison. Someone new. I didn't trust the feeling at first. My heart had learned caution. But this time, I didn't rush. I didn't build dreams too quickly. I didn't hand over my entire world. I simply allowed the moment to exist, soft and unforced. And that gentleness felt different from anything before. The second time love approaches you, it doesn't look like the first. It's calmer, slower, more honest. There are no grand promises of forever whispered too soon, no desperate need to hold on tightly. Just two people walking beside each other, choosing day by day to stay. This new feeling didn't erase my past. It didn't pretend pain never happened. Instead, it respected the girl who survived it, and that made all the difference. Because real love doesn't ask you to forget your scars. It holds your hand and walks with you anyway. Looking back now, I see my story differently. At the time, betrayal felt like the end of everything, like my world had collapsed beyond repair. But the truth was something I couldn't see then. That ending was also a beginning. If they hadn't broken my heart, I might never have discovered my strength, my independence, my quiet courage, my ability to rebuild from nothing. Pain didn't destroy me, it revealed me. And the girl standing here now, soft, hopeful, but stronger than before, is someone I'm proud to be. Maybe you're here because your heart is hurting too. Maybe someone you trusted chose someone else. Maybe you feel replaced, forgotten, not enough. If I could sit beside you right now, I would hold your hand and tell you this. Their choice is not your value. Their betrayal is not your future. Your story is not over. I know it feels impossible to believe. I know the nights are long. I know the silence hurts. But one day, slowly, quietly, you will smile again without forcing it. And when that day comes, you'll realize something beautiful. You didn't just survive heartbreak. You became someone who can never again forget her own worth. My story didn't end with betrayal. It continued into healing, into strength, into a softer, wiser kind of love. And the most beautiful part? This is only the beginning of the life I was always meant to live.
There is a quiet kind of beauty in beginning again. Not the loud, exciting beauty of fireworks or grand celebrations, but the soft beauty of mornings that feel peaceful, of breathing without heaviness in your chest, of realizing the past no longer controls the shape of your days. Starting over once terrified me. I thought it meant failure, loss, proof that something had gone terribly wrong. But standing in my new life, I began to understand something different. Starting over is not the end of a story. It is the moment the real story finally begins. Because when everything familiar disappears, you are given one rare, powerful gift, the chance to choose your life again, with wiser eyes and a braver heart. One afternoon, I caught my reflection in a shop window. For a second, I didn't recognize the girl looking back. She stood straighter. Her eyes looked calmer. There was softness in her expression, but also strength. Not the loud strength of anger, not the proud strength of proving something to the world. Just a quiet, steady strength that whispered, "I survived." And suddenly, I felt emotional, not from sadness, but from realizing how far I had come. Months ago, I could barely breathe through the pain. Now, I was planning my future again, laughing without fear, trusting life, slowly, carefully, but truly. Healing hadn't turned me into someone cold, it had turned me into someone whole. Part 29. When Memories Stop Hurting. For a long time, memories felt dangerous. Every song was a reminder. Every place carried ghosts. Every photograph felt like touching broken glass. But healing does something gentle and surprising. It doesn't erase memories, it changes the way they live inside you. One evening, I passed the cafe where he and I first met. I stopped walking. Months earlier, that place would have shattered me. But this time, I simply looked through the window. People were laughing. Coffee cups clinked softly. Life continued just as it always had. And instead of pain, I felt something quiet and unexpected. Gratitude. Because even though that love ended, it had once been real. It had once made me happy. It had once taught my heart how deeply it could feel. Not every love is meant to last forever. Some are meant to shape you, then gently let you go, and that doesn't make them meaningless. There is a difference between being lonely and being alone. I used to think they were the same. After the betrayal, I feared solitude like darkness. Silence felt like proof that I had been abandoned. But slowly, something changed. I began spending time with myself, walking under quiet evening skies, reading for hours, sitting with my thoughts instead of running from them, and I discovered something important. My own company was not empty, it was peaceful. I wasn't incomplete without someone beside me. I wasn't broken because I stood alone. For the first time in my life, I felt enough, just as I was. Healing doesn't mean the past disappears forever. Sometimes it returns softly, just to show you how much you've grown. I heard about them through a mutual friend. Not gossip, not drama, just a simple update spoken casually. They weren't together anymore. The relationship that once destroyed my world had quietly ended too. For a moment, I didn't react. No satisfaction, no anger, no sudden rush of old emotions. Just a calm, distant understanding. Some choices carry their own consequences, and life has a way of teaching lessons without our involvement. I didn't feel happy about their pain. I didn't feel sad either. I simply felt free from it, and that freedom was worth more than any revenge could ever be. People often imagine strength as something dramatic, loud words, fearless actions, unshakable confidence. But real strength feels quieter than that. It is waking up after heartbreak and choosing to live anyway. It is trusting again, even when fear whispers not to. It is keeping your heart soft in a world that sometimes rewards hardness. My strength didn't appear all at once. It grew slowly, like sunlight returning after a long winter. And one day I realized nothing that hurt me before had the power to destroy me now. Not because the world became gentle, but because I became stronger. There is something beautiful about the future. You cannot fully imagine it while standing in pain. Months ago, I believed my happiest days were behind me. I thought love had already chosen its story for me and ended it. But life is wider than heartbreak, kinder than despair, full of turns we cannot predict. New opportunities began appearing quietly, dreams I once postponed, paths I never considered, moments of joy that felt fresh and undeserved, yet completely real. And I understood something that changed everything. The future isn't written by the people who leave, it is written by the person who stays, you. Sometimes I imagine sitting beside the girl I used to be, the one crying on her bedroom floor, convinced her life was over. I would hold her hands gently and tell her everything she cannot yet believe. You will laugh again. You will sleep peacefully again. You will trust again. You will love again. Not in the same way, but in a wiser, calmer, more beautiful way. And most importantly, you will discover that losing them was never the end of you. It was the beginning of finding yourself. I wish she could have known that sooner, but maybe some truths can only be understood after walking through the darkness. If you ask me now what my story is about, I wouldn't say betrayal, I wouldn't say heartbreak, I wouldn't even say loss. My story is about becoming stronger without losing kindness, becoming wiser without losing hope, becoming whole without needing someone else to complete me. Yes, someone cheated on me. Yes, my best friend betrayed me. Yes, I broke in ways I never thought possible. But that is not where my story ends, because the most important chapter is not the one where I was hurt. It is the one where I healed. And that chapter is still being written every single day. There is one final truth my journey taught me, a truth so gentle and powerful that changed the way I see love, loss, and life itself. And understanding that truth was the real happy ending I had been searching for all along.
For a long time, I thought love meant never leaving. I believed love was proven by promises, by forever plans whispered late at night, by the certainty that someone would always choose you. But heartbreak has a strange way of teaching the truth. Real love is not just about who stays, it is about how they stay. Gently, honestly, without secrets hiding in the dark, without making you feel small to keep themselves comfortable. And the most surprising lesson of all? The most important love in your life is not the one someone gives you, it is the one you learn to give yourself. The day I stopped begging for love and started offering kindness to my own heart, everything changed. Because self-love is quiet, but it is the foundation every other love must stand on. After betrayal, it's easy to become hard, to build walls, to stop trusting, to promise yourself you will never feel that deeply again. For a while, I was tempted to live that way. It seemed safer, less painful. But safety built from fear is just another kind of prison. And somewhere inside me, the same soft girl who once believed in love was still alive, waiting patiently, hoping I wouldn't abandon her too. So I made a quiet promise. I would not let the world turn my heart into stone. I would stay kind, stay open, stay brave enough to feel. Because being soft in a hard moment is not weakness, it is courage in its purest form. Happiness did not come back all at once. It returned the way dawn arrives, slowly, softly, almost unnoticed until the sky is suddenly full of light. One day I realized I had laughed 3 times without thinking of the past. Another day I noticed music sounded beautiful again. Then came a morning where I woke up and the first feeling in my chest was not heaviness, but peace. These were small moments, ordinary moments, but together they formed something extraordinary, a new life growing quietly inside the old one. And the most beautiful part? I didn't have to chase happiness anymore. It found me when I finally stopped running from myself. Part 39. The Girl Who Survived. If someone asked who I am now, I wouldn't describe my job, my hobbies, or the city I live in. I would say this: I am the girl who survived thinking she wasn't enough and discovered she always was. I am the girl who lost love and found herself instead. I am the girl who cried in darkness and still chose to believe in light. Not because life became perfect, but because I learned imperfection does not erase beauty. And survival, especially the quiet, unseen kind, is one of the most powerful victories a heart can achieve. Stories often end with romance, 2 people together, music swelling, everything finally complete. But my real happy ending looked different. It was standing alone one evening, watching the sky turn gold and pink, feeling calm in a way I once thought impossible. No dramatic moment, no applause, just a simple, certain knowing inside my chest. I am okay. I am whole. I am free. And in that quiet sunset, I understood the final truth my journey had been leading me toward. The worst thing that ever happened to me did not ruin my life. It returned me to myself. If you are reading this with tears in your eyes or heaviness in your chest, please hear me gently. Your story is not over. I know betrayal feels like the end. I know loneliness feels endless. I know the nights can seem too quiet to survive, but somewhere ahead, in a morning you cannot yet imagine, peace is waiting for you. Not perfect peace, not painless peace, but real, steady, breathing peace that no one can take away. And one day, you will look back at the moment that broke you and realize something astonishing. It was not the end of your happiness, it was the place where your true life finally began. My name still doesn't matter, because this story is not only mine. It belongs to every girl who loved deeply, lost painfully, and still found the courage to hope again. And if that girl is you, I promise the light is closer than it feels right now.
Time did not rush to comfort me. It moved the way seasons move, slowly, quietly, without asking permission. First came a long, emotional winter, where everything inside me felt frozen and still. Days were pale, nights were endless. Hope felt like something that belonged to other people's lives, not mine. But winter,
no matter how cruel, has never stayed forever. Little by little, something shifted. A softer breeze in my thoughts, warmer light in my mornings, moments of laughter that didn't feel forced. Spring did not arrive in the world first. It arrived inside me. And when it did, I realized healing is not about forgetting the cold. It is about learning that warmth can return even after the harshest storms. For a long time, I trusted nothing. Not promises, not feelings, not even my own judgment. Betrayal had shaken something deep, the quiet belief that life was safe. So I rebuilt trust carefully, the way you would touch water after nearly drowning, slowly, gently, ready to pull back if needed. I trusted small things first, that tomorrow would come, that pain could fade, that my heart could beat calmly again. And once those tiny trusts held steady, I began trusting bigger things, new friendships, new dreams, new possibilities I once would have been too afraid to imagine. Eventually, without noticing the exact moment, I trusted life itself again. Not because life promised never to hurt me, but because I finally knew I could survive whatever came. There is a difference between moving on and truly letting go. For a while, I thought I had already released the past. I wasn't crying anymore. I wasn't angry. I wasn't waiting for explanations. But deep inside, a tiny thread still connected me to what had happened. One quiet evening, I felt it clearly, that last invisible attachment woven from memories, questions, and what-ifs. And in that moment, I made a silent choice. Not dramatic, not loud, just a soft decision in my heart. I release this completely. I choose peace over the past. Nothing magical happened outside. The room stayed the same. The night stayed quiet. But inside me, something gently opened, like a door finally unlocked after being closed too long, and the air that entered felt like freedom. Before heartbreak, my happiness always had a reason. A message from someone I loved, plans I was excited about, moments shared with people close to me. But later, I discovered a different kind of joy, one that didn't depend on anyone else. Joy in sunlight touching my face, joy in finishing a difficult day, joy in music playing softly while I walked alone, joy in simply being alive. This kind of happiness was quieter, but also stronger, because nothing outside me could take it away. And that realization felt like finding treasure hidden inside my own heart all along. Strangely, heartbreak did not make me colder. It made me gentler. I noticed sadness in other people's eyes more quickly than before. I listened longer. I judged less. I understood that everyone carries invisible stories of struggle. Pain had opened something in me, not a wound anymore, but a doorway to compassion. And I began to see my past differently. Maybe what hurt me also shaped me into someone capable of deeper love, truer empathy, and quieter strength. If that was true, then even suffering had not been meaningless. There came a day when I noticed something surprising. I was no longer afraid of the future. Once the unknown had terrified me, I wanted guarantees, certainty, forever promises. But life had shown me that certainty can disappear in a single moment. And yet, I was still here. So fear slowly lost its power. The future stopped looking like a dark hallway and started looking like an open sky, wide, uncertain, but full of light. And instead of asking, what if everything goes wrong, I found myself wondering, what if something beautiful is waiting? One night, under a calm sky filled with distant stars, I thought about everything that had happened. The love, the betrayal, the breaking, the healing. For the first time, I didn't feel sadness while remembering. Instead, a quiet gratitude appeared, not for the pain itself, but for the person I had become because of it. So in my heart, I whispered something I never expected to say. Thank you. Thank you to the past for teaching me strength. Thank you to the loss for guiding me back to myself. Thank you to the ending that made a truer beginning possible. And with that silent gratitude, the last shadow of bitterness finally disappeared. If there is one truth my story holds, it is this: I kept going. Even when breathing hurt, even when mornings felt pointless, even when hope seemed foolish. Step by step, day by day, heartbeat by heartbeat, I kept going. And sometimes that simple act, continuing when everything inside you wants to stop, is the bravest thing a person can do. Not loud bravery, not heroic bravery, just quiet, human courage. The kind that saves a life without anyone else ever noticing. Today, my life is not perfect. I still have worries, still have uncertain days, still have moments of doubt like anyone else. But beneath all of that, there is something steady that never leaves: peace. A calm knowing that no matter what happens, I will not lose myself again. Because I learned how to hold my own heart with care, with patience, with love. And that lesson is something no betrayal can ever take away. You might expect a final sentence here, a perfect closing, a clear ending, a moment where everything becomes complete. But real life is not like that. Stories don't truly end. They continue quietly, beyond the pages, into ordinary days and unseen tomorrows. So this is not the end of my story. It is simply the place where I stop telling it and start living it fully. And if you have walked with me through every broken moment and every healing breath, then maybe this is not just my story anymore. Maybe it is also yours. And if that is true, then I hope you remember one final thing. No matter how deeply you are hurt, no matter how lost you feel, no matter how dark the night becomes, you can heal, you can rise, you can begin again. Always.
There was no special date on the calendar, no celebration, no message telling me you made it. Yet one quiet morning, something felt unmistakably new. I opened my eyes before the alarm. Sunlight rested gently across my room, and instead of the old heaviness waiting in my chest, there was lightness. Not excitement, not overwhelming joy, just a calm, steady feeling that whispered, "Life is okay now, and so are you."
For a long moment, I simply lay there breathing, realizing how extraordinary, ordinary peace can be after surviving chaos. That morning didn't change the world, but it changed me, because it was the first day I truly believed the pain was behind me, not hidden, not paused, but finished. As time moved forward, the past slowly transformed. Moments that once felt sharp became softer at the edges. Scenes that used to replay with tears started to feel distant, like pages from a book I had already closed. I could finally say, "That happened," without my voice breaking. And I understood something gentle. Memories don't disappear. They simply change their shape as we grow beyond them. What was once an open wound became a quiet story, a chapter that hurt deeply but no longer defined the whole book. And that shift felt like freedom written in invisible ink across my heart. From the outside, my life probably looked normal again. I smiled, I studied, I talked about everyday things. No one could see the long nights I survived, the silent battles inside my thoughts, the courage it took just to believe in tomorrow. But maybe that is what real strength is. The victories no one applauds, the healing no one witnesses, the quiet decision to keep living when giving up would be easier. I didn't need the world to notice, because deep inside, I knew exactly how far I had come, and that private knowing was enough. Before everything happened, I was gentle with everyone, except myself. I forgave others quickly. I understood their mistakes. I tried to protect their feelings. But when it came to my own pain, I was harsh, blaming, unforgiving. Heartbreak forced me to see that clearly. So slowly, awkwardly at first, I learned a new habit, speaking to myself with the same kindness I gave the people I loved. You're trying your best. It's okay to hurt. You didn't deserve what happened. You are still worthy of love. Those words felt strange in the beginning, almost unbelievable, but repeated softly over time, they became truth. And that truth healed places inside me no one else could reach. Opportunities didn't arrive like fireworks. They appeared the way dawn appears, gradually, patiently, full of quiet promise. New paths in studies, new friendships forming without effort, new dreams that belonged only to me, not shared, not dependent on anyone staying. For the first time, my future felt like my own creation, not something fragile that could disappear if someone left, but something rooted inside me, steady and growing. And with that realization came a beautiful sense of freedom. Whatever happens next, I will be okay. I don't know exactly what my love story will look like from here. Maybe it will be quiet, maybe unexpected, maybe still far away. But one thing is different now. I am no longer afraid of love. Not because I believe it can't hurt, I know it can, but because I also know I can survive the hurt and still remain soft, still remain hopeful, still remain myself. That knowledge changes everything. It turns fear into courage, and courage into possibility. For so long, I searched for peace in other people. in their reassurance, in their presence, in their promises to stay. But real peace was never there. It was waiting quietly inside me, beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the belief that I was not enough. And when I finally found it, it didn't feel dramatic. It felt simple, natural, like coming home to a place I had somehow forgotten. Maybe you didn't read all of this by accident. Maybe your heart is hurting right now in ways words can barely hold. If that's true, I want you to pause for a moment and breathe with me. Slowly, gently, like someone who deserves tenderness. Because you do. And I want you to know, the pain you feel today is not the place where your story ends. There is more waiting for you. More light, more laughter, more quiet mornings that feel safe again. You just haven't reached them yet. But you will. Step by step, breath by breath, exactly the way I did. After everything, the love, the betrayal, the breaking, the healing, one simple truth stayed behind clearer than anything else. I am stronger than what hurt me. Not harder, not colder, not closed, just stronger in the softest, most human way. And that strength is something no one can take, no matter what the future brings. If you ask where this story truly ends, I would answer softly. It ends where fear loses its voice, where hope returns quietly, where a girl who once felt shattered stands gently in her own light and realizes she was never as broken as she believed. And from that light, a new life begins. Not perfect, not painless, but real, open, beautiful in ways she couldn't imagine before. That is where I am now, standing at the beginning again, unafraid. And somewhere ahead, more chapters are already waiting to be lived, full of wonder, kindness, and courage I once thought I had lost. So this is not goodbye. It is simply the moment the page turns.
Something subtle began to live inside me after all the healing. It wasn't loud confidence, not the kind that needs attention or praise, not the kind that tries to prove anything to the world. It was quieter than that, a steady feeling in my chest that said, whatever comes, you will handle it. I noticed it in small moments, speaking my thoughts without fear, walking alone at night under soft streetlights, making decisions without needing someone else's approval. Before, I had searched for safety in people. Now I was discovering safety within myself, and that quiet confidence felt stronger than anything I had ever known. When life stops hurting, you begin to notice something extraordinary. Ordinary days are beautiful. The warmth of tea in your hands, the sound of distant laughter, clouds moving slowly across an endless sky, a peaceful evening with nothing dramatic happening at all. Once I chased big happiness, grand moments, intense feelings, perfect stories. But now I understood a deeper truth. Real happiness often hides inside the simplest hours. And when you learn to see it there, life becomes quietly magical every single day. There was a time I feared many things: being left, being replaced, being alone, starting over. But after living through my worst heartbreak, those fears lost their power. Because the thing I thought would destroy me didn't. I survived the nights I believed I couldn't. I breathed through pain I thought was endless.
I rebuilt a life from pieces I thought were useless. And once you survive something like that, the world stops looking so frightening. Not because nothing bad can happen, but because you finally know you are stronger than the bad things. Time never asked if I was ready to heal. It simply kept moving, morning after morning, sunset after sunset, carrying me forward even when I wanted to stay still. At first, I resented that movement. I wanted the world to pause until my heart stopped hurting. But now, I feel grateful, because time did something gentle and wise. It didn't erase my past, it softened it, held it at a distance, turned sharp pain into quiet memory. And without noticing the exact moment, I crossed from surviving into living again. Loving after heartbreak feels different. It is calmer, more patient, less desperate to hold on. I no longer try to earn love by being perfect. I no longer ignore red flags just to avoid being alone. Instead, I offer love the way sunlight offers warmth, freely, gently, without losing itself. And the most important change? I never abandon myself while loving someone else, because I learned the hard way that self-respect is the foundation every true relationship needs. If you met me now, you might not notice anything extraordinary. I look like an ordinary girl living an ordinary life. But inside, there is a story of storms survived, tears hidden, hope rebuilt from nothing. Inside lives a girl who knows she can break and still become whole again. She can lose everything and still find herself. She can walk through darkness and still choose light. And that quiet knowledge is more beautiful than any perfect life could ever be. For a long time, I believed the betrayal was the worst chapter of my story. But looking back now, I see it differently. It was not the end, it was a turning point, the moment my life shifted towards something truer. Without that pain, I might never have discovered my strength, my independence, my worth that exists even when someone fails to see it. So strangely, the chapter that hurt the most also guided me toward the life that fits me best. If my story means anything, I hope it becomes a small light for someone walking through heartbreak tonight. Not a bright, blinding light, just a gentle one that whispers in the dark, "You will be okay." Not today, maybe not soon, but one day, quietly, you will breathe without pain again. Because healing is real, peace is real, new beginnings are real. I am living proof, and if it happened for me, it can happen for you too. Even now, my story is still unfolding. There will be new loves, new dreams, new challenges I cannot yet see. Some days will be joyful, some will be difficult. That is simply the nature of being alive. But whatever comes next, I step towards it without fear, not because I control the future, but because I trust myself within it. And that trust feels like standing beneath an open sky with nothing left to hide from. If you have walked beside me through every broken moment and every quiet healing breath, then you already know the truth this story carries. He cheated, she betrayed, my world shattered. But none of that was the final sentence, because the real ending, the one that matters, is this: I found my way back to myself. And once you return to yourself, no loss can truly destroy you again. So I close this chapter gently, not with sadness, but with gratitude for the pain that taught me, the healing that changed me, and the life still waiting ahead. The story continues, soft, open, full of light I once thought I had lost. And somewhere, another beginning is already quietly becoming real.
There is a sound the heart makes when it is no longer in pain. It isn't loud enough for anyone else to hear. It doesn't echo like laughter or break like crying. It is softer than both. It sounds like calm breathing in the middle of the night, like steady footsteps with nowhere urgent to go, like silence that feels safe instead of empty. For the first time in my life, I began to hear that sound inside myself. And I realized something simple but profound. Peace is not something you chase, it is something you allow. The moment I stopped fighting the past, peace quietly entered and stayed. Once, my worth felt fragile. It depended on someone choosing me, loving me, staying. When they left, that worth shattered like glass. But rebuilding myself taught me a deeper truth. Real self-worth does not come from being loved by others. It comes from refusing to abandon yourself, even when others do. Now, my worth feels different. Not loud, not proud, just steady, like the ground beneath my feet. Something that cannot disappear because someone else fails to see it. And that quiet certainty is one of the greatest gifts pain has ever given me. Hope didn't rush back into my life. It arrived carefully, almost shy, as if asking permission to stay. First, in tiny thoughts. Maybe tomorrow will feel lighter. Maybe something good is still possible. Then, in small moments, a genuine smile, a peaceful walk, a dream forming again without fear. Until one day, I noticed hope was no longer visiting, it was living inside me again. And I understood, hope is resilient. Even when buried under heartbreak, it waits patiently for the chance to grow. Trusting others is important, but trusting yourself is life-changing. Before, I ignored my intuition. I silenced the quiet voice that sensed something was wrong. I chose comfort over truth. Not anymore. Now I listen when my heart whispers. I respect my feelings. I walk away from what hurts instead of convincing myself to stay. This is not bitterness, it is wisdom. And with that wisdom comes a powerful freedom. I am safe with myself. No matter who enters or leaves my life, that safety remains. After betrayal, many people stop believing in love. They build walls, lock doors, promise never to feel deeply again. I understand that fear. I lived inside it. But I chose something braver. I chose to still believe. Not blindly, not desperately, but gently, with open eyes and a wiser heart. Because a world without love is far more frightening than a heart that risks feeling again. And believing in love, even after pain, might be the strongest courage of all. Healing is not a straight path. It doesn't move neatly from sadness to happiness. It circles, pauses, revisits old places, then moves forward again. Even now, there are rare moments when an old memory appears unexpectedly. But the difference is this: it no longer controls me. It passes like a cloud across a wide, peaceful sky. Because healing does not mean nothing ever hurts again. It means hurt no longer owns you. And that quiet shift changes everything. Today, my life is simple. Morning light, work and study, conversations that feel honest, evenings filled with calm instead of questions. Nothing dramatic, nothing perfect, yet somehow it feels more beautiful than the life I once begged to keep. Because this life is real, grounded, built on truth instead of illusion. And most importantly, I am fully present inside it, not lost in fear, not trapped in the past, just here, living. If my journey carries any meaning, it is this message I want to leave behind. Heartbreak can wound you, but it does not get to define you. Betrayal can shake your world, but it cannot erase your future. Loss can break your heart open, and sometimes that opening is exactly where new light enters. So if you are hurting now, hold on gently, not tightly with fear, just softly with hope, because the chapter you are in is not the final one. Looking back, the moment I thought was my ending was actually a doorway, a painful, unexpected doorway leading towards growth, truth, and a deeper understanding of myself. I would never choose that pain again, but I no longer wish to erase it either, because without it, I would not be the person standing here now, calm, whole, unafraid to begin again. Sometimes endings are simply beginnings wearing a different name. And now, as this long story reaches a quiet resting place, I don't feel sadness, only gratitude for the girl I was, for the pain I survived, for the strength I discovered, for the peace I live with today. This is not a dramatic goodbye, just a soft closing of pages after a journey that changed everything. Because the truth is, my life continues beyond these words, full of ordinary miracles and unseen tomorrows. And wherever your own story is right now, I hope you remember this gentle promise. Healing is real, hope is patient, and you are stronger than you know. So I leave this final whisper for your heart to carry forward. The light always returns. Always.
There comes a quiet moment in healing when survival is no longer the goal. For so long, I was only trying to make it through the day, to breathe without breaking, to sleep without remembering, to exist without hurting. But slowly, something shifted. I stopped asking, how do I survive this life? And began asking, how do I truly live it? Living fully does not mean constant happiness or endless perfect days. It means allowing yourself to feel joy without guilt, to rest without fear, to dream without expecting loss. It means saying yes to the small wonders of being alive. And that quiet courage, the courage to live, not just endure, is one of healing's greatest victories. The past used to feel enormous. Every memory carried weight. Every reminder could pull me backward into a place I thought I had escaped. I believed time alone would make it disappear. But healing taught me something gentler. The past does not vanish. It simply changes shape. What once felt like an open wound becomes a scar, still visible, but no longer bleeding. Now when I look back, I don't see only pain. I see strength forming quietly. I see lessons written in difficult ink. I see a version of me who refused to give up. And because of that, the past no longer holds power over my present. It has become just another chapter, not the whole story. For years, I tried to become someone easier to love, less emotional, more patient, more forgiving of things that should never have been accepted. I thought changing myself would finally bring belonging. But real peace arrived the day I stopped performing. The day I allowed myself to be honest, sensitive, imperfect, real, without apology. Because the right people do not require a smaller version of you. And the life meant for you does not begin until you stop pretending to be someone else. There is a deep, steady calm in simply being yourself. A freedom no approval can replace. Part 89. Gratitude for the ordinary. I used to overlook ordinary days. I was waiting for milestones, miracles, moments big enough to feel meaningful. But healing changed my vision. Now I notice quiet gifts, a peaceful morning, a kind conversation, an evening where my heart feels light for no dramatic reason at all. These small moments are not insignificant. They are life itself, happening softly without announcement. And gratitude grows strongest not in extraordinary events, but in ordinary days that once felt impossible to reach. If there is one truth this long journey has given me, it is this. Healing is not a destination. It is a way of walking. Some days feel bright and easy. Others return with shadows. But the difference now is simple and powerful. I keep moving forward. Gently, patiently, with compassion for myself instead of judgment. I no longer rush the path. I no longer fear the distance ahead. Because every step, no matter how small, is proof of something beautiful. I am still here, still growing, still choosing life. And as long as I continue walking, this story, my story, will always be moving towards light.
For a long time, I believed happiness had to be loud. I thought it would arrive like fireworks, bright, sudden, impossible to ignore. I waited for a moment big enough to prove that everything had finally changed. But real happiness did not come that way. It arrived softly, almost unnoticed, hidden inside ordinary days. In the warmth of morning sunlight resting gently on my window, in the comfort of a deep breath that no longer carried pain, in the simple realization that I was no longer afraid of tomorrow. Nothing dramatic happened, no grand turning point, just a slow, steady blooming inside a life that had once felt empty. And that is when I understood. The most beautiful lives are not the loudest ones. They are the quiet ones where peace chooses to stay. People often confuse strength with hardness. They think being strong means feeling less, caring less, building walls no one can cross. I tried to become that person once, someone untouched, someone unreachable, someone safe from pain. But that was never real strength. It was only fear wearing heavy armor. Real strength feels different. It is the courage to remain gentle in a world that has been unkind, the bravery to keep loving even after loss, the wisdom to stay open without losing yourself again. My heart is softer now, but it is also stronger than it has ever been, because softness, when protected by self-respect, cannot be broken easily. There was a time when I waited for someone to see my worth. I believed love would arrive and finally tell me that I was enough. So I waited, and slowly forgot how to choose myself. Healing changed that. Now I do not wait for permission to feel valuable. I do not measure my worth by who stays or who leaves. I wake up each day and quietly choose myself first. Not in pride, not in selfishness, but in truth. And strangely, the moment I stopped chasing love, life began offering it in gentler, healthier ways. The future once felt terrifying, a wide, unknown space filled with questions I could not answer, and losses I feared would repeat. But something inside me has grown calm. Now when I think about tomorrow, I don't see darkness. I see possibility. Not perfect days, not painless ones, just real moments waiting to be lived. And for the first time, the unknown does not feel like danger. It feels like freedom. Because whatever comes next, I know one quiet truth. I will meet it as someone who has already survived what she once believed she never could. Stories do not truly end. Even when the final page turns, life keeps writing in invisible ink across ordinary days. This journey was never only about pain or healing or love that was lost and found again. It was about becoming, slowly, quietly, honestly, the person I was always meant to be. And that becoming is still unfolding. So this is not an ending, not really. Just another gentle pause between chapters still waiting to be written. If you are walking your own difficult road, remember this: you are not behind. You are not broken. You are not finished. You are simply in the middle of becoming, and the most beautiful parts of your story may still be ahead.
Joy did not return to my life like fireworks or celebration. It came quietly, almost unnoticed at first. In the way I laughed without forcing resound, in the way music felt warm again instead of distant, in the way a simple sunset could hold my attention without reminding me of loss. For a long time, I was afraid to feel joy. I thought happiness might disappear as suddenly as everything else once had. But healing whispered a softer truth. Joy is not something fragile. It is something that learns how to grow again. And little by little, I let myself feel it. Not all at once, just enough to believe that light had truly returned.
There was one person I struggled the most to forgive. Not him, not her, myself. I replayed every moment, every decision, every sign I ignored. I asked endless questions. Why didn't I see it sooner? Why did I stay so long? Why did I believe promises that were never real? But healing does not grow in the soil of blame. One day, I looked at the girl I used to be with softer eyes. She wasn't weak. She wasn't foolish. She was simply someone who loved honestly and trusted deeply. Two beautiful things the world should never punish. So instead of judging her, I thanked her. Because her pain became my strength. Her survival became my future. And in forgiving her, I finally felt free. I used to search for love as if it lived somewhere outside me, in another person's voice, their attention, their decision to stay. But real love does not begin there. It begins quietly within, in the way you speak to yourself when no one is listening, in the boundaries you protect even when it's difficult, in the care you offer your own heart without needing permission. This kind of love does not disappear overnight. It does not depend on promises. It stays, steady and patient, always waiting for you to choose it again. And once you feel that love inside yourself, you realize something powerful. Anyone who enters your life is no longer your source of love, only a reflection of it. There was a time when the future felt terrifying. I imagined loneliness, more heartbreak, more endings I couldn't survive. But standing here now, I see the future differently. Not as something dark and unknown, but as a wide open sky, still waiting to be explored. I don't know who I will become. I don't know what joys or challenges are still ahead. And for the first time, that uncertainty feels beautiful instead of frightening. Because whatever comes next, I trust the person I am becoming. And that trust turns fear into quiet excitement. If someone asked me today what I value most, my answer would be simple. Peace. Not temporary happiness. Not dramatic romance. Not the approval of people who cannot truly see me. Just peace. Soft mornings, honest connections, a heart that rests easily inside my chest. This peace was not given to me. I built it slowly from broken pieces, tearful nights, and brave decisions no one else could see. And because I built it myself, I protect it gently. Anything that threatens this peace no longer has a place in my life. Not out of anger, but out of love for the calm I fought so hard to find. Stories often end with dramatic conclusions, grand reunions, perfect victories, clear final moments. But real life rarely ends that way. Instead, it continues softly, morning after morning, step after step, choice after choice. No music playing, no final scene, just living. And maybe that is the most beautiful ending of all. A story that does not truly end, only keeps unfolding into new days, filled with possibility. Because my journey was never only about heartbreak, it was about becoming. And I am still becoming, slowly, gently, beautifully alive.
For a long time, I believed strength meant hardness. Not crying, not needing anyone, not letting the world see where I was fragile. But healing showed me a different kind of strength, one that lives in softness. The courage to feel deeply without shutting down, the bravery to love again without becoming naive, the wisdom to remain kind in a world that is not always gentle. Softness is not weakness. It is strength that has learned how to stay open without breaking apart. And now I carry that quiet strength with me, not loud, not demanding, just steady and real. Part 98, When Life Feels Like a Gift Again. There was a time when each day felt heavy, like something to survive instead of something to receive. But slowly, without a single dramatic moment, life began to feel different, lighter, warmer, full of small invitations to smile. I started noticing beauty where pain once lived, sunlight on the floor, rain against the window, the comfort of my own breathing in a quiet room. Nothing extraordinary, yet everything meaningful. And one peaceful morning, a simple realization arrived. I was no longer just existing. I was living. That awareness felt like opening a long closed door and finding light waiting patiently on the other side. Part 99, The Girl I Have Become. Sometimes I think about the girl from the beginning of this story, the one who loved without fear, the one who broke without warning, the one who believed her world had ended. I wish I could sit beside her now, hold her shaking hands, and whisper softly,
you are going to be okay. Not soon, but truly. You will grow in ways you cannot imagine yet. Because the girl I am today is not the same, and that is not something to mourn. She is calmer, wiser, more careful with her heart, yet still capable of wonder. She has learned that endings can transform you instead of destroy you. And most beautifully of all, she has learned how to love herself without conditions. Part 100, The Light That Never Left. If this story has taught me anything, it is this quiet truth. Even in the darkest moments, the light never truly leaves. It hides, it waits, it stays somewhere deep inside, protecting a tiny spark of hope until you are ready to see it again. I once believed my light had disappeared forever, but it was only resting, gathering strength, preparing to rise in a softer, steadier way. And now it shines not like a sudden flame, but like a constant glow that cannot easily be taken away. So if you are reading this while standing in your own darkness, please remember, your light is still there, quiet, patient, unbroken, waiting for the moment you begin to believe in it again. And when you do, even the longest night will slowly, gently turn into morning.
There was a time when the words starting over felt like failure, like proof that everything I'd built had collapsed, like standing at the beginning with empty hands and a tired heart. But time reshaped that meaning. Starting over is not emptiness. It is space. Space to choose differently. Space to grow honestly. Space to build a life that fits who you truly are, not who you were trying to be. And one quiet morning, as sunlight slipped gently through my window, I realized something surprising. I was no longer afraid of new beginnings. Because this time, I wasn't starting from nothing. I was starting from experience, from wisdom, from strength I had fought to earn. And that kind of beginning is not fragile at all. After heartbreak, I thought every new person would bring danger. I expected disappointment, distance, another ending waiting quietly ahead. So when kindness appeared again, I didn't trust it at first. Not because it wasn't real, but because I was still learning that gentle things can stay. The people who entered my life later didn't arrive with grand promises. They didn't try to impress me or rush closeness. They arrived softly, with patience, with respect for my quiet healing. And slowly, without forcing anything, they showed me a truth I once struggled to believe. Not everyone is here to hurt you. Some people are here to remind you how safe connection can feel. Part 103, The Way Time Holds Us. I used to resent time. It moved too slowly when I was in pain, too quickly when I wanted moments to last. But healing changed my relationship with it. Now I see time differently, not as something rushing past me, but as something holding me, carrying me through nights I thought would never end, guiding me gently toward mornings I couldn't imagine yet, softening memories that once felt unbearably sharp. Time did not erase my story. It gave it room to breathe. And because of that, I no longer fight its movement. I walk beside it, trusting that wherever it leads, I will keep becoming someone stronger, someone calmer, someone more whole. If you could step inside my heart now, you wouldn't find chaos. No loud questions, no desperate searching, no echoes of a love that once defined everything. You would find something quieter, stillness, warmth, a gentle rhythm that no longer depends on someone else's presence. This piece is not dramatic. It doesn't announce itself, but it is real, steady like ocean waves moving without hurry, certain without needing proof. And sometimes, in the middle of an ordinary day, I pause just to feel it, to remember how far I've come, to thank the strength that carried me here, to honor the girl who refused to stop believing that calm was possible. Because now I know, peace was never outside me. It was waiting for me to come home to myself.